We appreciate it. We've got Florida Senator Marco Rubio with us now from Miami. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What are you hearing, sir, about the conditions and what your state faces this morning?
Well, obviously, I'm here in Miami-Dade in my home, so while we're safe, we've been without power since about 2 a.m. I think over half our customers here are. But more importantly, we're starting to get reports from, like, Marathon, Florida, and there's a shelter of last resort there. The outside is deeply flooded, it appears. Somebody in the shelter died overnight of natural causes, so they're concerned also about the food supplies. Really, people should not have stayed in the Keys, but some did, and they're in the shelter. So we've lost some communications with the southern part of obviously, Key West, which is now directly in the eye of the storm. But I was just listening to some of your reporters. They're in southeast Florida. You know, Florida cities just south of us here. Conditions here are really nasty and dangerous. I hope they get indoors, by the way. These reporters, I know everybody wants to be out there reporting, but it's also dangerous, so I hope they get indoors. But if it's nasty in southeast Florida, just imagine how bad it is going to be in Tampa Bay, Naples, in Fort Myers, in Sarasota, the southwest coast of Florida, heavily populated, very susceptible to storm surge. If people are still have the ability to leave these evacuation areas, they should. This is the worst-case scenario that Tampa Bay hit that could potentially happen.
Yeah, and Senator, as you know, job number one is to keep people safe while the storm is hitting. Job number two is to assess the damage. And job number three, to try to help with recovery. You know, you have the power to pick up the phone and talk to the heads of all kinds of agencies. What are they telling you?
Well, their position, here's the challenge, and the unique challenge of the storm is, you know, FEMA has pre-positioned a lot of assets and supplies in Alabama and in Georgia. Well, now Alabama and Georgia are potentially going to be impacted, not by hurricane storm winds, but by tropical storm winds, which means it's going to delay the ability potentially of getting on the road or in the air to deliver those supplies. So we're going to have to be able to hold on, especially in the southern part of the state, for a couple days extra until they can get on the road and get here. So that's a concern. And then just the sheer scope of it. I mean, this is a heavily populated state. This is going through southwest Florida. We got a lot of people in the Tampa Bay region. So that's a challenge. And the third, which no one's thought about yet logistically, is we had a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people who left South Florida and headed north to Orlando, to Tampa, to other parts of Florida they thought would be safer. Now they find themselves at a target. Number one, they got to stay where they are. It's no time to hit the road at this point. And number two, you know, we got to deal with all those people trying to come back home after the storm and the traffic that might create for the emergency crews and others that are trying to get down to help.
Senator, is that why you said a couple minutes ago this is the worst case scenario for Tampa? I mean, is that part of what you're getting at? I mean, above and beyond the fact that it's a terrible storm.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger challenge is not just that, it's the storm surge. Tampa Bay is a basin of water, and a storm like this is going to push all that water inland into the low-lying areas of Tampa Bay, heavily populated. Tampa General Hospital's right there on the waterfront. We have a NICU, you know, a neonatal intensive care unit there, which is safe but could be flooded. And so we got to, you know, all those challenges that we've known for a long time. Tampa's susceptible to flooding and storm surge, so you add the wind and the storm surge. And this water event is what we're really deeply concerned about throughout the southwest coast of Florida, and that is you can shelter from the wind, you cannot shelter from the water. It's the only way to protect yourself from storm surge is to get away from it. So yeah, we are very concerned about that.
And looking forward, you talk about challenges. We know, and you know, that FEMA is stretched very thin. They're reacting to the devastation from Hurricane Harvey. There have been wildfires out west. I know there's been more money delivered by Congress, but are you at all nervous that FEMA has just got, you know, too many things going on at once?
No, I think from a resource perspective, Congress is going to allocate whatever emergency funds are necessary. And as long as we stay focused on that, what do we need for the next year, for the next 6 months to respond to these storms, that'll happen. And we're going to have to go back and do more. Everyone knew that going into this weekend. Obviously, what you're talking about is the scale and scope of it, right? A lot of people, more than you had, because usually these storms will hit one city. You know, they go into Houston, or they go hit Miami, or they hit Tampa. This is going to hit multiple metropolitan centers and create damage in multiple metropolitan centers. So you do worry about volume overwhelm. But, you know, I'm sure that, you know, it's not just FEMA on its own. You got a lot of other people involved here, the Department of Defense, state officials, of course. So we'll get through it. Job number one is to keep people safe, because the less people you have to rescue, the more time you have to go help people recover. Those rescue efforts, if we can avoid them, at the front end really will make the recovery not easy, but it'll make it easier if we don't have to spend time and resources on the rescue part of it. And people should take responsibility for that at the front end and not put themselves in that position. If they do, our brave men and women and, first responders, firefighters, and others will be out there. But I hope people will heed the warning.
Yeah, well, Senator, thank you very much. Good luck to you and the good people of Florida.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sam Champion.